Hey everyone, are you freaked out by Bitcoin's recent price swings, wondering how the heck is it up and then down, and can my stomach handle this? Is this roller coaster worth it? Well, this video is for you. So we're going to unpack the last week of Bitcoin, why things are doing what they're doing, how to think about it, and all of that. Okay, so what happened over the last week? Well, Bitcoin just under a week ago, in the probably Monday of last week, something like that, Bitcoin went up to above $102,000, the highest it's been in what feels like a few weeks, a couple weeks, something like that. So it went up to above 102,000, and then over the last week, it marched from above 102,000 to very briefly below 90,000 this morning. Now, right before I recorded this video, it was right about $92,000. So from above 102 to below 90 for very briefly, like a minute. It was like no time at all, but still, for very briefly, less than 90,000. That is a 12,000, almost $13,000 dollar swing in the price of Bitcoin. So let's talk about it. Well, first of all, you need to understand is you need to be thankful for the volatility of Bitcoin. Volatility is vitality, as Michael Saylor says. When Bitcoin is no longer volatile, it is no longer an investment asset. It's just money. So if you don't like volatility, volatility is inherent in all investment assets. And if you want something with low volatility, that's fine, but it will only go up slowly. If you want something with high volatility, it has the opportunity to go up very quickly and down very quickly. But you cannot find, for all the reasons I've done entire dedicated videos on why there is no such thing as a low volatility, high upside asset. That does not exist. You cannot find a low volatility, high upside asset, which means if you have high volatility in an asset that has a deep underlying value, that creates huge potential upside. And that's just the way it is. So first of all, you need to be thankful for the volatility, because when the volatility is no longer there, neither is the upside. So over the next probably decade or two, over the next 10 to 20 years, the volatility of Bitcoin will come way down, but so will the upside. So Bitcoin, for example, if you know, a year ago, Bitcoin was in the probably 40,000s. Let's call it half. Let's say it was about half of today's price. Well, the volatility was double. So if you think the price swings are big today with Bitcoin, or in the last week, they were twice as big a year ago. Now, the upside was also twice as high, because in the last year, the volatility has dropped in half, but the upside has also dropped in half. So if you wanted a less volatile asset, you can wait and buy Bitcoin at $250,000 a coin, or you can wait and buy it at $500,000 a coin, and Bitcoin will be much less volatile. But also, if you're buying Bitcoin at $200,000 a coin instead of $100,000 a coin, it has half as much upside for you. So volatility is vitality. And you should be thankful for that, because it creates an incredible investment opportunity if you can handle those ups and downs. Okay, so what happened? Well, the first thing that happened is a judge declared that the U.S. government could sell $6.5 billion of Bitcoin that they had confiscated from the Silk Road back in 2014. So literally 11 years ago. So 11 years ago, the U.S. government confiscated some Bitcoin from a company, and they've been sitting on it ever since, and it's been adjudicated in federal courts, and a judge said that the U.S. government could go ahead and sell that. So that was one precipitating factor, and the other was that the jobs report came in hot, meaning the economy created more jobs than it was expected, and the Federal Reserve then said, hey, this means we are not going to be able to, to lower interest rates as much as we thought, because inflation is a bigger problem. Well, first of all, if inflation is going to be a bigger problem, in my opinion, it means you should buy more Bitcoin, not less Bitcoin. Why would Bitcoin be less valuable in a world that anticipates higher inflation? Well, I mean, that, again, humans are not rational in the short term. That's just the nature of investing, is humans are not rational in the short term. But anyway, so those two things happened, and as a result, the price of Bitcoin started marching down as people started freaking out because it was going down. Some people sold their Bitcoin. The smart ones, in my opinion, like me, were buying more Bitcoin as it was coming down, and I posted about that. But anytime people start getting freaked out, they start selling stuff. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how high quality the asset is. It doesn't matter what the future upside is. When it starts going down, some percentage of the population freaks out and sells it. And then when it goes up, some percentage of the population gets all excited and buys it, which is the opposite of the behavior you should have. The goal is to buy things when they're on sale. But people just tend to not do that with financial assets. They want to buy it when it's going up and they want to sell it when it's going down, which is how you lose money in investing. But anyway, so those two things happened and the price started marching down. And then when the price starts marching down, people start freaking out. And when they freak out, they sell and the price marches down. And that's how you go from above 102,000 a coin to just below 90,000 a coin for a second. So those two things, it's what's important to understand about those two things are both of those are near term. So when you see a news headline like that, what everybody wants to focus on is the news headline and not the underlying value of the asset, which is what they should focus on. So Bitcoin's value is based on two things. Are we as humans going to use something as money? Or are we going to go back to bartering by trying to trade a dozen eggs for a cow? So if we go back to bartering and no longer use anything as money, not US dollars, not euros, not Bitcoin, nothing, if the world ceases to use money as a technology, then yes, Bitcoin will be less valuable. But there's zero chance we're going back to barter. Bartering for things is basically impossible in a modern economy. It's just completely unworkable. Everyone knows it. We're not going back to barter. So then the second question is do we as humans need money? The technology of money, is that something we are going to use as, human civilization? The second question is Bitcoin a better money? Well, let's check. In the last 1 week, did anything change about its durability, its portability, its divisibility, its authenticatability, or its scarcity? And the answer is no, nothing changed about any of that. So Bitcoin is still the exact same better money it was a week ago. So what that tells you is there are two news stories that caused the price to drop, and both are near term. You cannot sell the same Bitcoin twice. If the US government sells that $6.5 billion of Bitcoin, which I looked this morning and I couldn't figure out if they had or if they were going to or whatever. But regardless of whether they do or not, you can only do that once. If you remember, we went through this, the exact same thing happened last summer when the German government announced that they were going to sell 50,000 Bitcoin, which is what the US is going to sell is a little bit more than that, but not much. I think it's like 67,000. Anyway, the German government announced they were selling 50,000 Bitcoin. The price went from, the low to mid 60,000s to the low 50,000, something like that. It was like a 20% drop. In this case, the drop's more like, 10% because the numbers are all bigger, or 15% or whatever it is. I guess 12%, whatever. But anyway, the numbers were bigger because you were coming off of, the percentages were bigger because the numbers were smaller. But very predictably, that lasted a week or two, maybe 3, whatever it was. And then the price rebounded and it's almost double where it was from back then. So the first thing is, okay, can the US government sell the same Bitcoin twice? No. Now, if the US government was announcing, with the US dollar, they were printing more money, then yes, if you have US dollars, you should be worried. But because the US government can print dollars forever. If there was a hard cap on the number of US dollars in circulation, and the Federal Reserve announced they were printing, multiple trillion, you could say, great, it's great to get that out of the way. But with the US dollars, it's unlimited. They can print 2 trillion more, they can print 4 trillion more, they can print 8 trillion more. There's no limit. With Bitcoin, there is. You cannot sell the same $6.5 billion of Bitcoin twice. And so if the US government sells that Bitcoin, they don't have it anymore. And great, now we have that out of the way. Now that Bitcoin is redistributed to everybody else. So it's a short-term thing that by definition cannot create an existential threat for Bitcoin. Same with the Federal Reserve. It doesn't matter if the jobs report is strong or weak or anything else. They cannot keep interest rates high forever. The economy is drowning in debt, including the US government. And with interest rates at 5% or so, it's completely impossible to afford the national debt. We're piling on debt at like $1 trillion every 100 days. And all of the companies that borrowed money when interest rates were low are now having to refinance at much higher interest rates, which is creating a ripple effect of bankruptcies. And more people than ever are borrowing against their 401ks or taking out a home equity loan to pay their bills. There is no possible way the economy can function with high interest rates after the US government basically tempted everybody to borrow money with low interest rates for so long. So again, it's like the Federal Reserve news story is short term. There is zero chance that the Federal Reserve is going to keep interest rates high forever. That is not a paradigm that even is at all compatible with current reality. So when you see a price correction like what we've seen in the last week, the questions to ask yourself are, one, are humans still going to use money? Yes. Two, is Bitcoin still a better money? Yes. Okay, well, if nothing changed that, then Bitcoin is a fantastic investment. It's literally that simple, which means anything else you see is just noise. It's like, okay, the Federal Reserve is going to keep interest rates a little higher, a little longer. So what? That's short term. Or that, the Treasury, or I guess the Marshal Service, whatever it is, the Justice Department, might dump $6.5 billion of Bitcoin maybe in the next 2 weeks before Donald Trump takes over as president, because he has promised he will not let the Justice Department sell any Bitcoin. So do they sell that Bitcoin in the next week or two? What is it? It's the 13th. It's like a week away. Do they sell it in the next week? Have they already sold some of it? Is that why the price is down? Who knows? But it doesn't matter because it's short term. So all that to say, the fundamentals of Bitcoin have not changed, and the current price is a buying opportunity. So unless you are completely loaded to the gills on Bitcoin and completely incapable of possibly buying more Bitcoin, then you have an incredible opportunity right now to buy Bitcoin at a discount. And that's what I've been doing every time the price has dipped. When the price dipped, a few weeks ago into the 90,000s, up from, down from 100,000, I started jumping through the hoops of moving a Wells Fargo Advisors investment fund over to Fidelity so I could buy Bitcoin with it in a Fidelity rollover. Well, that whole process took like 3 weeks. It was supposed to take like 24 hours or, 3 to 5 business days. But apparently when I first rolled it over, I didn't select a rollover IRA. I selected an individual IRA. I don't know, whatever. I pushed the wrong button. Anyway, so they had to call me and they had to reprocess it as a rollover IRA. Then once it was in Fidelity, I had to sell off the assets that were already in it, which that took a day, but then it took 2 days for that money to clear. Anyway, so I bought more Bitcoin this morning. So people all over the world are doing exactly what I'm doing, which is like, look, I was going to leave that old Wells Fargo Advisors IRA alone because there wasn't that much money in it. It was like $19,600 or something. It was like $20,000. I was just going to leave it alone because, I just didn't want to mess with it because I'm busy and there's too much going on. But the first time Bitcoin dipped into the 90,000s, I started the process of getting that in Bitcoin. And I completed that process this morning by buying, $19,600 of Bitcoin at a price of $90,600. And I posted that to Facebook this morning. So people like that all over the world are doing that. The smart people are saying, hey, here's a buying opportunity. Maybe I should dig a little deeper than I was planning to buy a little bit more Bitcoin. Plus, because I'm using the Coinbase debit card, I've been spending Bitcoin, even though I'm continuing to buy Bitcoin, I've been spending Bitcoin all the way when it was up to 108,000 just to buy everything I need in my daily life. So guess what? I can buy that Bitcoin that I spent when it was higher. I can now buy it back at a lower price, basically locking in a discount for the past. So how should you respond to these sort of things? The answer is don't watch the price unless you're planning to buy more Bitcoin, and don't focus on the near-term headlines. Focus on what are the fundamentals that make Bitcoin valuable. If those fundamentals are stronger than ever, and they are, then buy more Bitcoin and ignore it. Consider it a blessing. The volatility is a blessing because without it, you don't get the upside. And the price drop is a blessing because it's a buying opportunity for anybody who is not 100% Bitcoin already, which is almost nobody. Even I'm at like 97. I might be getting close to like 98% of my liquid assets in Bitcoin because I continue to buy. I feel like every time it dips, I buy a little more and then a little more and then a little more. So I haven't run the math recently, but I was at 97% Bitcoin. I don't know. Maybe it's at 98% Bitcoin now, but I'll run the math. But anyway, great buying opportunity. So no reason to freak out. Bitcoin's as strong as ever. It will continue to go up and down. The bigger the swings up and down, the earlier it tells you are in the Bitcoin adoption cycle and the more upside that still exists in Bitcoin as an asset. And again, who cares about the short-term news cycle? The short-term news cycle will always lead you astray. It doesn't matter what the asset is. The short-term news cycle will always lead you astray. So you have to focus on the fundamentals. Why is this asset valuable? And have those fundamentals changed. In the case of Bitcoin, those fundamentals are stronger than they've ever been, and it's a fantastic opportunity to buy more Bitcoin. So have a great day, everyone. Thanks.